my business years ago. Founded that business, Pastor James and I, back in 1988. And God spoke 8 principles for us to run business by. Now we're getting ready to.
Good morning, everybody.
We're already in it for a lot of people.
Doing breakfast.
We're getting ready to enter into some challenging financial
Listening to
times.
Nathaniel Bronner.
We attend a CEO meeting once a month. And a couple of months ago, I was sitting in the meeting, and there was an accounting firm they were talking about, and the firm had 600 clients. And the main accountant said of the 600 clients, he estimated that 30 to 40% of his clients would be out of business within 6 months. I have a friend who I went to college with, and he also has an accounting firm, and I called him up and I said, this is what the accountant with 600 clients told us. Out of your clients, how many do you reckon, because you're looking at the books, so you can't lie to the accountant. Well, I guess you could lie, but you're looking at the books. The accountant knows the figures. I said, how many of your clients would you estimate will survive the next 6 months? And as he thought about it, he said about 1 out of 3, looking at the books, are not going to make it. So when God says talk about the 8 principles that he gave me for business, it's not just for those of you who are in business. This stuff will apply to your personal world. It will even apply to your households because they're foundational principles. I just left Chicago. I got back in the airport this morning, and they were talking about how the unemployment office and the crisis center that was absolutely just overwhelmed. So this country is getting ready to potentially see some of the most challenging of economic times that we've ever faced. It'll be the best of times, and it'll be the worst of times. But these 8 principles, it's going to help some of you who are in business, but it's going to help everybody who has stuff that they need to manage. Because by us sticking by these principles, it's kept us out of some directions and out of some paths that we shouldn't go in. And I have this thing right up in our conference room, all 8, and I tell everybody in the company, anytime you see us about to deviate from any one of these 8, you've got my permission to raise your hand and say you're violating one of those principles that God spoke. So it helps us to stay on track. And even outside of the 8, something that he spoke to me very recently, just a simple thing. He says, treat other businesses like you want folk to treat your business. For those of you who are thinking about going in business or whatever, it's simple. Treat other businesses the same way you want folk to. I make it where I am an excellent customer. I try to be the kind of customer I want. When I checked into the hotel, they were telling me, they said, because of the virus, we don't have daily room service. I don't need any room service. I said, first of all, every hotel has a stack of towels. I'm going to let y'all in on some news. I don't use a fresh towel every day. Now, I take a shower every day, but I don't use a brand new clean towel every day because there's nothing on the towel but water. So I dry off and let that dry, and I dry it off the next. I've used a towel for a few days. So I'm just being straight with you. And I know some of you all have to have a brand new fresh towel every single day.
Wow.
I don't. So
wow.
I use the same towel. So I told the man, I said, look, no, I do not. And the other thing about
Too much
I
transparency.
don't change sheets every day. I don't know whether you all just, and some of you are just super squeaky clean. You got to have a brand new set of sheets every day. Pastor, I don't need a new set of sheets every day. I don't need a new towel every day. So I told the man, look, I don't need any room service at all. Even before the virus crisis, I put a do not disturb handle on my door. I don't need any room service. And number 1, I don't need any room service. Number 2,
need no towels.
I am going to leave the room just as clean as I found it. So there's not going to be a whole lot of mess all over the place. All of the towels are going to be right there in the floor. leave everything just as neat, just as clean, everything wiped off. Not going to be a whole lot of water all over everything. So number 2, I'm going to leave it just as clean as I found, except for the towels. Going to be in the middle of the floor. And number 3, I'm going to leave it made a tip.
Oh, yeah, you will.
I try to be the kind of customer I want.
Right.
If I was in the hotel business, I would want 1,000 customers just like me. If I was a maid that had to go into the room, I would want 1,000 customers just like me. See, you don't need to be what you want. You don't need to have other folk want, what you want them like you want them. No, you need to be like you want. Would you want to marry you? See, everybody always talking about, I want this kind of man, I want this kind of woman,
Would
I
you
want
marry
them like
you?
this, I want them to do this. Would you want to marry you? You need to be like what you want. So that was something outside of the 8 that God just spoke. He said, treat other businesses.
Treat them like
the way
you want to be treated.
People to treat your business. So as we get ready to potentially move into a world where there could be increasing economic challenges, it's going to be the best of times for some. It's going to be the worst of times for some. But when you're in God's will, there is a protection that goes with you that just watches over you in the midst of even famine and economic turmoil and economic strife and economic challenges. That's just a modern term for the old-fashioned famine. When economic strife went through the land. And the first rule that God spoke is this: always remain financially viable. We must make sound financial decisions to remain profitable, to not only remain in business, but to prosper in business. Now, some of you would think, look like the first thing God would have told you was something spiritual. No, that's not the first thing he told. First thing he told me is always remain financially viable. Well, Pastor, look like God would have said, always pray every morning before you come into the business. Always have a scripture on the wall. Always. No, that's not what God told me. He said, always remain financially viable. If you're in business and you violate one of the first rules of business, you will not be in business. Do you know
right.
about 3,500 churches a week close in the U.S.? And the main reason they close is money. There are over 200 churches in Atlanta, and this was before the crisis hit, that were on the verge of foreclosure.
Wow.
These are the house of God. I told you the story even here in this church. When we bought this building, and there was a ministry in the church, and I came here and talked to him. I said, man, you got to get out of here. And he said, but Pastor, you don't understand. Prophets have prophesied about our ministry. I don't care what they prophesied. They have prophesied, and your ministry may do exactly what they said, but they're not going to do it here.
Need this building.
Because you have not paid your rent.
Wow.
You owe the lady money to rent. You have not paid your rent. You have not kept your word. So I don't care what's been prophesied. Now, you all have never seen that side of me. But I do have that side. I got a real serious military side of me.
Ooh, go ahead,
I
mate.
don't care what's been prophesied about you. You have not kept your word. You have not paid your rent. I don't know where you going. But you're getting up out of here.
But you going to get up out of here.
And that's what I had to tell him. See, he was not financially viable. He had violated the first rule. There was some other stuff behind it. But the main thing was, he wasn't paying his rent.
Right.
Now, I want you to open your Bibles to the book of Luke, chapter 14, 28. You've heard this story, so you really don't have to turn there because it's one of Jesus's classics. Suppose one of you wants to build, this is the NIV version, suppose one of you wants to build a tower or a house. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish? Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off, and he will ask for terms of peace. Now, this is Jesus.
Wow.
The model of that is, what man buildeth a house without first counting the cost? That's
Right.
what Jesus said, look, don't you even try to build anything until you, first of all, figure out how much it's going to cost and if you have enough money to pay for it. Always be financially viable. Now, I understand the spiritual direction on some things. But a lot of times I see some folk messing up because they think God has told them something and God hasn't, or they haven't sat down and counted the cost. I hear people sometimes go, oh, my mortgage went through and I was able to get the loan. You may not have needed that loan. If you sit down and count the cost, you might not be able to afford that loan. And I want you to look at how Jesus put this. He says this, he says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower or build a house or a structure or business or whatever it is. He says, first, sit down. When you sit down, you have a tendency to focus on the thing. See, a lot of times we don't even sit down. You know, we're just walking and talking. That's kind of casual. When you sit down, you need to sit down and put this stuff on paper. Sit down and figure out how much it's going to cost. A lot of people come to me for business advice. And I'll ask them, well, how much is this going to cost? I don't know. I said, you mean to tell me you're getting ready to go into something? How much the product cost? I don't know. How much is your rent? I'm not sure about it. Very few of them have actually sat down and figured out how much it's going to cost. They say, I want to do this. I want to go into this. I just got a vision. God told me, and he told me to come talk to you. Well, you come and talking to me, but I'm telling you now, you need to sit down. You don't need to sit down in front of me. You need to sit down by yourself or with some other expert, and you need to count the cost. You're getting ready to build something, and you don't know how much the thing costs. And you'll be surprised how many people come to me like that, and 90% of them have never sat down and accurately figured up the cost. What man buildeth a house and has not figured out how much it's going to cost? You build a whole lot of folk do. And as a result, they end up in a financial situation where they don't have enough resources to finish the project. So first, sit down. Sit down. I mean, stop, focus, take some time, sit down, and figure on this thing. Before you buy a house, sit down. Put all your stuff on paper, all your expenses, all your bills, all of the miscellaneous stuff that's going to happen. Because if you move into a house, I can guarantee you, it's not going to be perfect, especially if it's used. There's going to be some stuff busted. Refrigerator going out, washer going out, pipe bust, all kind of stuff. You find stuff, this flow creep, all kind of stuff. A lot of times people have not sat down
And done the math.
and counted the cost. And when the stuff busts, you have no money to get the stuff busted.
Right.
So now you in the house just got barely enough to pay the note and the refrigerator not working.
Right.
Because you didn't sit down and count the cost.
Right.
Always be financially
Viable.
viable. Now there are some things that I will do in business, and I know the thing is going to lose money.
Wow.
There's a project right now I'm in the middle of. I knew without question this thing going to lose money. By all logic, it's going to lose money. But I sat down and I said, this is how much it's going to cost. This is how much it's going to lose. But I got this much. And I have enough to cover what it's going to lose. Always be financially viable. See, financially viable does not mean necessarily it's profitable on that particular segment that you're working on, but it means you got it covered. Y'all just turned to tell me, I got that covered. See, it doesn't matter how long you got it covered. It doesn't matter what the price of gas is, as long as you have it covered. You can pull up to the pump and gas could be $100 a gallon.
And you don't care.
As long as you got it covered, you fine. You can pull up to the pump and gas could be 50 cents a gallon. And you don't have but a quarter, you got a problem.
You got a problem.
So if you sit down, figure out the cost. Not on the fly, not while you walking,
Right, sit it down.
not while you talking, sit down
Figure it out. Yep.
and figure out how much is this thing gonna cost. Count it up, estimate it, see if you have enough. The other thing that people often don't realize when they're figuring up the cost, they don't understand time is money. And I've worked with people and they're figuring that they're working on something. And I say, is this thing profitable? I say, well, it's making a little profit. I said, how much time you spending in it? Well,
What are you talking about?
I'm putting about 30, 40 hours a week in it. And it's just breaking even. How much are you paying you? What, I'm not charging anything for me. Your time is money. A lot of people will make the error. They're assuming that just because I spend my time, it doesn't cost anything. Yes, it does. It costs something because if you spend that time doing that, it means you're not spending that time doing something else. You may be spending that time working on this, and the time you need to be spending over here is being seriously neglected. So now all of a sudden, you spent 30 hours in your business and your house is in a wreck. Or you spend 30 hours on your business and you haven't spent any time with your children, or you haven't spent any time with your spouse. So time is money, and it takes time, and there's only a limited amount of time. Time is the one item that everybody is equalitarian on. It's an equal opportunity issuance. You have no more time than Jeff Bezos, who's right now the richest man in America. Jeff Bezos
Got no more time
has
than you.
24 hours
Just
in
like
a
you.
day.
That's right.
This man has almost probably $200 billion right now.
I say that
He
all
has
the time.
24 hours
He
in a
can't
day.
spend it.
168 hours in a week.
Right.
And I'm sure that nobody listening to the sound of my voice has several $billion. But no matter how much you have,
Yeah.
whether you have $1 billion
Or $2.
or a book,
Mm-hmm.
you have 24 hours in a day and 168 hours in a week. You have the identical amount of time as Jeff Bezos. Not one microsecond more nor less. Time
Right.
is given equally now. Somebody may live longer, but in terms of your day-to-day time, of the time you have to get stuff done, time is an equal opportunity issuer. No one has any more than anyone else. Time is valuable. So whenever you're figuring out the cost of something, always include your time and always include what's called the opportunity cost. If I spend my time over here, it takes away from over here. And is it worth it for me to take away from over here
That's right. Good thing.
to make more over here? My daddy he talked to me a lot. He used to say, son, he said, I could have made a lot more money than what I made. He said, but if I had taken that time to make a lot more money, I'd have lost my family. I'd have lost my health. I'd have lost my peace because my stress level would have been much higher. So I learned so much from him just from that. Time is money. Time cost. And everybody has the same amount. And whenever you're figuring out the cost of something, don't leave out your time. It doesn't matter whether your time is worth $10 an hour or $1,000 an hour. It's your time. And nobody has any more than anyone else. Count the cost of your time. And here Jesus says, suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose one coming against him with 20,000? If you're getting ready to go into something, always know what your competition and what the battlefield is like, because business is a war. It absolutely is. Always know what your competition, know who you're going against, know how strong they are, know what you have to deal with. And this takes time to sit down and go through and analyze it. That's why if you're doing a business plan, first thing they're going to ask you, who are your chief competitors? Most folks don't even take time. They're going to war. Business is a war. Let nobody, it's tough, it's a war. Somebody's trying to take your customer, take your profit, take your territory. It's a war, there's no question about that.
No question.
But people don't sit down and analyze the battlefield to see who they're going against. And Jesus said, look, if you got 10,000 men and you're going up against somebody with 20,000 men, you either need to have a better battle plan, you need to be able to surprise them, you need to have better weapons, or so you need to go and make peace with that man while he's way away. You need to make peace with him before he gets close to you and see you don't have a 10,000 men. You only got half of what he got, and then he'll beat you up and take your stuff. So he said, you need to go and make peace with him. Sometimes there are some strategies when you sit down and count the cost. You may find the war is simply not worth it. Now, I'm from an entrepreneurial family. My daddy breathed and taught and imbued entrepreneurship in all of us. But as we've gotten older, sometimes we've seen, for some people, that's just not the best path. You have to have a special mentality to be an entrepreneur. For some folks, to be honest about it, you're better off with just a job. You're better off get you a good education or a good skill, just get you a job. But Pastor, why? Because first of all, if you got the average job earning, say, $50,000 a year, you got to have a pretty good business to make $50,000 a year of net profit. That's $1,000 a week of net profit. You got to be doing some pretty good business to make $1,000 after all of your expenses and all of this stuff on a consistent basis. There's no question about it. You got to be doing well on that. So sometimes when you look at the battlefield, you may decide I'm better off, instead of trying to compete with Amazon, I'm better off just to go work for Amazon.
That's right.
And when you look at that, because first of all, you're going to come home and be able to sleep every night.
That's right.
Because often when you in charge of it, you got to worry about all this little stuff. When you working for somebody, when you punch the clocks and check out, you check out. You check out. When you the owner, you don't check out. You got to worry about all of the stuff all night. You got to figure on this, going all kinds of stuff. So sometimes this is a part of what Jesus, he said, look at the battlefield. Look at the competition out there. Look at what you have to go against and decide, do you want to sit down and make peace or do you want to go to war? And sometimes it's just better for you to go to a 9 to 5, and when you get home at 5:30, it's over. And that makes a whole lot of sense. And most of the time, you don't worry about your check. I never will forget, I was at a show, John Johnson, who was the founder and publisher of Ebony and Jet magazine. I was walking him through the show. And he said, I respect any man who can make a payroll. Because when you got to make a payroll, because I'm going to let you on a little secret. When you don't pay Negroes on time, I don't care how holy you are. When you don't pay Negroes on time, Negroes will get highly upset with you. So John Johnson says he respects any man who can make a payroll. It's no joke. So just counting the financial cost, everything you do needs to be financially viable. Make sure it's financially viable. And take some time and sit down and count the cost. And sometimes when you do that, you may need to figure out, you really may need to just make peace and not go to war in the business world. You might be better off just working a 9 to 5 and going home, being able to sleep good at night without having to worry about all this stuff. Jesus gave some very good practical business advice with that advice. And God told me to find, and not only to remain in business, but to prosper in business.
Prosper.
And there are another 7 principles that I will give you, and I'm going to talk about each one of them one by one. But I don't want you just existing. I want you to prosper. I want you to be living in the best of times. I want you to be at a point where you can recognize the beauty of God and you can enjoy all of the greatness and all of the beauty that God has for you to enjoy. And that's going to be the next 7 messages as we go through.
That's it. No, you got 44 seconds. Don't you cut off on me, mate. So listening to Nathaniel Bronner, captivating. Love this guy, love his family. You all know how I am about the Bronners. So I don't know why the video stalled. See what's going on. Her says 44 seconds left. It was recorded 3 hours ago, so oh, here we go. Maybe not. I'm like, what's up?
Enjoy all of the greatness and all of the beauty that God has for you to enjoy. That's going to be the next 7 messages as we go through the principles that God gave me just to be able to run prosperous business. Because people, these are the best of times. I thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word. You can go to brothersoftheword.com, listen to this message or watch it in its entirety all over again. You can send it to a friend absolutely free. Be sure to join us for the rest of this series so it can take your life and your business to another level. Thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need
the word.
The word.
My man. Oh, I'm so grateful for Nathaniel Bronner and his family, the Bronner brothers, for bringing me down here to Atlanta. Man, life's been good. It really has been good. I'm so blessed and grateful to know this brother and to be connected to him. And so it makes sense to come back around and listen to the word for sure. So I'm here. I've arrived on this Sunday in November 2020. Just finished breakfast. Thank you for joining it with me or enjoying it with me. I'm about to upload a lot of videos to YouTube because I'm grabbing all of my Facebook videos and I'm gonna make sure they're all up on YouTube. Because grateful I have the technology. Grateful I have the technology, man. Man, life is good. What a blessing. Wireless Passport Pro. Man, what is this? 3 gigs? 4 gigs. 4 terabytes. It's a must. The gas isn't working. Okay. We go out there and check it out. Because it's cold outside. Baby, it's cold outside. Put this wireless together so that all these videos I'm downloading can be somewhere. Figures. Get out there and take care of this business. And just wanted to check in with you guys. Coincidentally, Nate Bronner came on. Great message today. Keep me in check in terms of spending and staying financially viable. That's important. They talking big stuff about this next couple quarters, and I'm not having it. Already been here dealing with the most, so. So this is a wireless 4 terabytes, so it should handle anything coming up off this drive. Oh, there's a stranger in my house. What's up, Shakira? Shakira. Mm-hmm. Are you up? Up, okay. Yep. So we'll connect this to the new laptop, and it will serve as a backup, and it's wireless, so you can keep it nearby. You don't necessarily have to keep it. Okay. You don't necessarily have to keep it on the laptop. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean. Let's go there. Let me go check out this situation outside, and I'll catch y'all later.
I notice most of them go with waves in. I go against the current I currently feel engaged in. Raised in a city, civility's disability. Disumbilical cord is the discontent for humility. Silly rapper, you privileged, lying who you pretend to be. I disconnect from your witherspoon like Ryan Phillippe. Philip is web browser with lead showers and minstrels. Nocturnal journals of unnurtured potential. Essential tools when exploiting the black youth. Multiracial pickaninnies they pick as a substitute. Suck the truth from the culture.